So we see Psyche. Obviously, we know that word because it's an English word. It refers to the mind. So right there, we could tell that we should be looking at this from an internal perspective. We shouldn't see these characters as the external world. So as I give a brief summary of the story, just imagine how that reflects within. So Psyche is this beautiful woman you can see in the picture. A young woman, very innocent, and she has two other sisters. Psyche is the most beautiful of them all and is revered. So much so that the goddess Venus, which is the goddess of love, sex, and beauty, becomes jealous because a mortal is nearly as beautiful as she is. So she decides to take some vengeance and sends her son, Cupid, down to Psyche in order to make them marry. Cupid and Psyche do marry and they fall in love. However, in this process, Psyche longs for her sisters, who aren't nice people, because she loves them, and she's very alone. But Cupid warns her. He says, that night her husband spoke to Psyche. For thou she could not see him, her hands and ears told her that he was there. This is interesting, this statement here, because she cannot see her own husband, but the senses, her own senses know it, indicating that this isn't an internal thing. Sweetest Psyche, my dear wife, fortune in yet more cruel guise threatens you with mortal danger. I charge you to be most earnestly on the guard against it. Your sisters, believing you to be dead, are now in the grief following you to the mountaintop and will soon even look that way. Or you will bring about heavy grief for me and for yourself, sheer destruction. Even in the last statement, he says, you will bring about heavy grief for me and for yourself, sheer destruction. So who is Cupid in relation to Psyche? Because as you see here, he's saying her actions are going to bring grief on him as well. So it's showing some type of union. The goddess of Venus is of divinity, and she sends her son. That energy descends down into the Psyche, which is a form of an arrow, which is a symbol of Cupid, and shakes those senses, those three brains, which is the intellect, the emotion, and the sexual force, shakes them. So when the Psyche sits down to meditate, you think of all these different desires. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I'd like to feel this. I want to think about this. Oh, I thought of this past relationship. And wants to hold on to them. And this is Psyche's sisters, those psychological aggregates, those desires that we have within that feel very, very close to us like family. And that's why Cupid is warning her, because he is that energy with the Psyche. They are like one. That's why it's been signified as a marriage. He has many other meanings as well, but we can go about that in another time. But he warns her again because Psyche has given in to these sisters. She has seen them, and she wants to see them more. He says, the day of reckoning and the last chance are here. Your own sex, your own flesh and blood are the enemy, arrayed in arms against you. They have marched out and drawn up their line and sounded the trumpet call. With drawn sword, your abominable sisters are making for your throat. What disasters press upon us, sweetest Psyche. So it's interesting. He says, your own sex, your own flesh and blood are the enemy, arrayed in arms against you. So he's saying the Psyche, the mind, is our own enemy. in a sense that we have these own desires that are leading us in the wrong way. We are taking that energy and transforming it in an incorrect manner. In this story, Psyche does fall. There is a happy ending in the end, but she does fall. She becomes closer to her sisters. She ends up listening to them and distrusting in that force of divine, Cupid. She falls in love with the sensual pleasure of sex. And that was ultimately her fall.